Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.
Welcome to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. I'm Jean Till, and on today's show, we're visiting with Andrea Johnson. She's program manager, tenant-based rental assistance part of the program at Anna Wim Housing, which is new in Council Bluffs. Very excited about that. And Bishop, I had to look up what Anna Wim meant because I did not take Hebrew when I was in school. But
really?
Evidently,
St. Edmunds didn't have that.
I know they didn't offer that.
My goodness.
You know, actually, they didn't offer Latin either. But my older siblings all had to take Latin. But by the time I got there, it was
just comes in handy. You never know.
It does.
Caveat emptor and things like that.
Yeah. Well, in Hebrew, from the Old Testament, Anawim means poor ones who remain faithful to God in times of difficulty. So I think that's really appropriate. Anawim is a great connection for Anna Wim Housing.
We look forward to that conversation with Andrea. Here we are already moving into the middle of September. And a little bit of nip in the air. It seems like the fields are drying out as the farmers get ready for the harvest. It was good to be with good people at St. Columbanus in Weston, just north of Council Bluffs last weekend for the first time to celebrate Mass there. That very intimate church in that beautiful idyllic setting, the grove of trees and things, and the faithful people there. And I think we've had a beautiful Mass. Father Julius Edemade, the administrator there, and the people, and we had a nice meal together. Imagine that. Iowans sitting down with corn.
And I was going to say, did you still have sweet corn?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it was sweet, but it was really good. So, but then this is a week, kind of a poignancy, obviously with 9/11, our commemoration, the 22nd anniversary of the fall of the Twin Towers and the attack on the Pentagon. And I think, even today's commemoration of Our Lady of Sorrows, really, I think it kind of captures that Mary, the mother of the church, the mother over all the universe, and kind of her heart is one with those who our hearts are pierced, who are suffering in any way. Conscious also maybe of some other big events happening. Last night we had the kind of kickoff for Catholic Charities centennial year in the Diocese of Des Moines. I mean, it's a tremendous thing. A century of care and compassion, fulfilling Christ's promise of help and hope. I think we'll have many signature moments during the year. Also, for some of us, maybe not everybody, but for former card-carrying philosopher, the 25th anniversary of St. John Paul's release of the encyclical Fides et Ratio, Faith and Reason. And that was, I think, another kind of watershed moment in his papacy, building upon his previous encyclical, Veritatis Splendor, the splendor of the truth. And I think his great concern that the two wings of faith and reason allow us to rise to the truth, ultimately the truth incarnate, who is Jesus Christ. We know they're not all in our culture friends of the truth. I think we have lots of folks who maybe want to kind of give us a virtual reality as the norm for what we're about. And so I think John Paul, no coincidence, I think, that he released that encyclical 4 days after he canonized Edith Stein, St. Theresa Benedict of the Cross, who in her own way, as a woman of the people of Israel, a woman of the covenant, came to discover in her own studies and Göttingen and some famous names there, but reading Theresa of Avila and discovering there is the truth. She was able to join the covenants of the people of Israel with the covenants sealed in Christ's blood. She integrated those active and contemplative dispositions. She could borrow from St. Thomas Aquinas and this new movement of phenomenology. She really overall reinforced that sense that hope and light overcomes darkness, that communion in the truth overcomes the hatred of persons and of God that deal death and divide us from one another and within ourselves. I was fortunate once to be at the Auschwitz-Birkenau camp and those railroad tracks to nowhere there, to wander out where her mortal remains scattered like ashes for so many. But ultimately, those who would perpetrate malignant lies would say truth is illusory and the world is an accident. But this witness of truth that she was, that John Paul holds up to us, that we are called to be in our own way to witness to a culture and be servants of the truth in our own respective vocations.
Well, with that, we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll be visiting with Andrea Johnson. She is a program manager with Anna Wim Housing. We're going to learn all about helping to take care of the poor. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio is provided by Confluence Brewing Company, brewed locally since 2012 and featuring regular, seasonal, and limited release beers. Confluence Brewing Company, 1235 Thomas Beck Road off the bike trail south of Grays Lake. ConfluenceBrewing.com. Support for Iowa Catholic Radio provided by Farm Bureau Agent Cindy Schulte, an authorized independent agent for Walmart Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Iowa, an independent licensee of the Blue Cross Blue Shield Association. Learn more at 515-226-2111 or cindyschulte.com.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio is provided by Catholic Charities of the Diocese of Des Moines, where empowering individuals and strengthening families have been the cornerstone of care for a century. Services for neighbors in need include a food pantry, professional counseling, emergency family shelter, and refugee resettlement. At Catholic Charities, lives are transformed and you can be part of the mission. To learn more about how to help Catholic Charities fulfill Christ's promise of help and hope, visit CatholicCharitiesDM.org.
Welcome back to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. And on today's show, we're visiting with Andrea Johnson. She's a program manager with Anna Wim Housing, a new initiative in Council Bluffs. Bishop?
Good morning, Andrea. Thank you for making time for us here on this Friday morning. So appreciate the visit. Coming to learn more about your charism and ministry and about Anna Wim Housing, which is extended back several decades, and all that was there, being founded by Sister Stella Neal, Mercy Sister, back in 1987. But how did you come to be in this position? And is the Council Bluffs area been your home soil, or is that something where the Spirit has led you there?
Yeah, great question. And thanks for having me on. Sure. So a little bit of background on me. I've been working in human services for the past, about 10 years. A lot of my history has been in the child welfare realm. I came to work in housing back in 2019. So almost 4 years ago.
Oh, about the same time I became bishop, so yeah, we each kind of found our niche here. Yeah.
yes. Found where we're meant to be. Yeah, I just kind of, I fell in love with the work. I have really developed a deep passion in working for the folks that we serve through Anna Wim and through other housing programs in the community. And it definitely felt like my niche, felt like where I needed to be.
Did a headhunter recruit you, or you heard about it, or was it you had a relationship already with the Anna Wim folks?
Great question. So I heard about Anna Wim. I was working in housing prior to this, and then I was invited to a listening session with Cynthia Lacham, which is the president of Anna Wim. And so I went and I attended that, and I just thought, this is an organization whose values and mission I can really get behind. Mm-hmm. And so when I found out that they were starting services here in Council Bluffs, I was like, how do I sign up? And so we were able to connect and kind of take it from there.
So you recruited them instead of vice versa.
Yeah.
But extending their footprint, Anna Wim beyond Polk County, Ottumwa, Cedar Rapids, and Sioux City in the whole Iowa region. So, we think about our Iowa Catholic Network and all that's there. The Council Bluffs, obviously poised on the Missouri River, the intersections of I-80, I-29. Do you think that the housing needs there are pretty representative of most communities, or are they more acute, or is there a unique culture and factors that play into why it's so vital to have some people like Anna Wim?
Yeah, I think really universally, there's some deep housing needs across the nation, honestly, but every community is so different. And so while there are similarities to other communities in Iowa, Council Bluffs is absolutely a unique kind of place. And I know more about Council Bluffs than I do about the other communities, so I'll speak more to that. Mm-hmm. But I know here in Council Bluffs, being a part of the metro makes us unique. Also, the culture and the folks that we have in our community make us unique. And housing is tough. The cost of housing has risen quite dramatically in the last 4 to 5 years. And so,
exacerbated by the pandemic. I think, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And prior to that, the flooding that we experienced in this area created some housing issues as well. So, yeah.
We don't forget that.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, your role and the engagement with folks who have no place to lay their head, or they're maybe kind of in between, or just kind of trying to eke out and make ends meet in the place that they really don't have enough to pay for rent or things like that. You probably know one typical client that you have, but how do you encounter folks? Do they seek you? Do you come to know about them? Are you driving down the streets and seeing folks who seem to be homeless, or how does that relationship happen?
That's a great question. And everyone we work with is, as unique as the next person. Everyone has their own story for sure. The nice thing about Council Bluffs is we have a nonprofit network here that works really, really close with one another. So we're always collaborating with other homeless service providers, other community service providers. So when it comes to connecting with folks who need housing assistance, we work really closely with our friends over at New Vision, Micah House, Heartland Family Service to recognize who has the most need, who's most vulnerable, and who is maybe being missed by other systems in our community.
Okay. And some of these are faith-based, some other nonprofit organizations, any for-profit alliances as well, or is this all based in the nonprofit realm?
Yeah, most of the work that I do is in the nonprofit realm. We actually have a service committee called the Human Service Advisory Council, HSAC, which is just a group of nonprofits that meet to find out how to best serve our community needs and how best to advocate for the folks that we work with in the community. But we do have partnerships with for-profit agencies too. We're always looking for philanthropy, donors, especially when it comes to household furniture and cleaning supplies and those kind of everyday things that people need when they're moving into their own home.
You made reference to the metro area and our Spirit Catholic Radio listeners as well. So do your consciousness of the greater Omaha area and eastern Nebraska, or is the Missouri River a kind of to mark out the territory for you all?
Yeah, for Antelope Housing, it's the Missouri River. So for our program in particular, we work within Pottawatomie County. And so while we do have a lot of partnerships with agencies who may have a presence in Omaha as well, our focus really is on Council Bluffs. Okay.
All right. Well, we really appreciate that focus that you have. What kind of issues are folks who are homeless, and whether they identify themselves in that regard or not, what kind of things are impacting what's led them there or their most immediate needs? Mental illness, other factors that might play into that?
Great question. So, as I said before, people experiencing homelessness, all their stories are as unique as they are. So there's really a lot of people who experience homelessness for a whole lot of different reasons. I've worked with folks who are struggling with some mental health or maybe some substance use issues. But I've also worked with folks who lost a job, got behind on their bills, just aren't able to catch up. With my program, it's a tenant-based rental assistance program. So mine is a more short-term program. So I work with more families who are able to live on their own, don't need a whole lot of case management ongoing. They just need some help to get to the point where they're able to take over that rent on their own. My counterpart, Brandy Luther, she runs a permanent supportive housing program here in Council Bluffs. And she does a lot more hands-on case management for folks who might need a little bit more support in order to maintain housing long-term.
In the midst of the pandemic, and we know there was a lot of support, many communities or, municipalities and others said it's not going to be permitted to evict people because they can't meet their rent during the pandemic. But then that kind of grace period did end ultimately. Was there kind of a cascade of folks that suddenly were, impacting the community that needed immediate attention?
Yeah, I don't have specific numbers pulled for that. And I think that some of our friends who are doing more of the prevention side of the work would have probably better statistics on that. But just anecdotally, yeah, I've noticed a drastic increase for the need of housing services. And it seems as though there's a rise in evictions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So as I'm told, your goal this past May was targeting 20 households in Council Bluffs experiencing homelessness. You've already exceeded the goal, and that's more maybe Brandy's area of things with 37 individuals as well. But the support that you've received, and you and Brandy, you've been pictured together, collaborating on site at different places. During the course of the day, are you partners in the work that you do, or do you both kind of have your separate domains?
I think both and. So both of us are very independent. We work with our clients pretty much individually, but yet we are there for each other to support one another. So we'll be helping each other with moving people into new housing or going on home visits together occasionally, doing housing inspections. Brandy's been an amazing support, and I'm really glad that we have each other here on site to kind of help one another when we need it. But ultimately, the work is pretty independent.
Okay. You kind of
the nice thing.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
Please continue.
I was just going to say the nice thing as well is that we have such strong partnerships with those other nonprofit housing and homeless organizations like New Vision's Micah House. I just recently called a case manager from over at the Micah House to help me move a washer, which I would have never been able to do on my own. So
other
we're pretty lucky
as assigned, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Where are the Knights of Columbus when you need them, right? No, they do a lot too. I'm not knocking the Knights here, but many groups that are ready to mobilize, I'm sure. So, we can get the St. Albert's football team out there. Right?
There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
That'd be good. But, it really takes a community. And I feel like that's the nice thing about working in Council Bluffs, because that's what we have here is community.
You find that that disposition of people to be there when you call upon them. The kind of motto that I think animates ANOIM and their clients is housing first. How does that capture the priorities on both sides?
Yeah, great question. So housing first is a tradition that goes back quite a number of years, and there's so much evidence behind it that it really works. It can kind of sound like a radical idea to some people when they first hear about it. Basically, housing first means that there's no hoops that people have to jump through to be in our programs. There's no treatment that people have to be in. They can be in all of the stages of change. So actively using substances or perhaps not wanting mental health treatment at this time. We are still going to work with those folks on getting into housing and getting into housing quickly, because housing is really a community or really a human right when it comes down to it. And so from there, we see that people are able to meet their basic needs, right? That Maslow's hierarchy of needs shelter is right there at the bottom. Mm-hmm. Once people are able to meet that need, they can start working on those other goals that they might have. But that's really foundational, and that's really what Housing First is all about.
Yeah, that we have to have a space where we can find peace and a refuge, and with that then pursue those other avenues where we claim our personal freedom in a way. Do you have to spend a good deal of time cultivating relationships with landlords, and are there some that maybe are more wary of working with you, or do you in effect become the de facto landlord? How does that play out?
Great question. And this is where there are some differences between my program and Brandy's program. Brandy's program is pretty unique in that ANOIM Housing actually holds the master lease for her units, and then she rents it out to the tenants that she serves. And so that's a very unique relationship with property managers. With my program, the folks that I serve sign leases directly with property managers. And so I'm just more of I can mitigate if any issues do arise, and I can kind of go in between the client and landlord when there are any issues. But it's really that relationship is based on like a direct relationship with one another. And so our programs are a little different in that sense. But yes, we are both always looking to engage landlords, talking to landlords, educating property managers, and working with property managers. We have some really great ones in Council Bluffs that have been really open to serving the community in this way.
Who may or may not have faith motivations, but I think that goodwill that we see our neighbor in need, and that this is something that we can be there, and yet these are also business people too, who are trying to profit, obviously, and sustain their own households and their own livelihood, that we can go about that. Do you have to cut through a raft of regulations and things, or do you feel that Anawim has kind of charted the course where it's a faster track?
I wouldn't necessarily call it a faster track. Prior to Anawim coming into the Council Bluffs community, we did notice that there was a little bit of a gap in people being served within the Council Bluffs community specifically. And so Anawim has really come to help fill in that gap. So it's not a first stop for most people. Most of the folks who are referred to Anawim have been working on housing for quite a while, and for a number of factors haven't been pulled for programs, haven't qualified for different programs, and so that's how they kind of make their way to Anawim housing. Okay.
You referred a few moments ago to the iOS Foundation. That support and that relationship, was that a one-off, or do you expect that they'll be mindful of you going forward?
Yeah, well, definitely with Brandy's program, she offers permanent supportive housing. And so that relationship we're going to continue to maintain, hopefully grow. We'll see where the future takes us, but I can't speak to any of the financial piece. That's kind of out of my realm.
Lucky you.
Yeah. I will say
above your pay grade is almost literal here in a way. But, I think
I will say
I've come to know a few folks who maybe have relationships there. I think your stock is high. Let's put it that way with them. So
and the Iowa West Foundation have been absolutely wonderful to work with.
Mm-hmm. Well, we certainly appreciate you taking time with us this morning, and blessings upon this work, this ministry, whether it's rendered in the name of the church or not. It is obviously, I think, what Christ was talking about in Matthew 25, and so may you continue to give people hope and lift them up in life. So thank you very much for your time today, Andrea.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
We're going to take a break, and if you would like to find out more information about Anawim Housing, go online to anawimhousing.org. That's ANAWIM. That's anawimhousing.org. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio provided by the Sarah Vocations Ministry, including the St. Sarah Club of Des Moines and the Sarah Club of Council Bluffs. Sarah is an apostolate of the Worldwide Catholic Church dedicated to fostering and supporting priesthood and religious vocations. Sarahans strive to accomplish their mission through prayer, fellowship, and service to the bishop, priests, sisters, and all in religious formation, and in doing so to increase their own holiness. Learn more at joinsarah.org, joinserra.org. Thank you, Sarahans, for your support of Iowa Catholic Radio.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio is provided by CTO. What great news for donors to the Catholic Tuition Organization. You now receive 75% of your donation back in Iowa tax credits. Your support has helped thousands of students attend our Catholic schools. Best gift ever. Online, ctoiowa.org. At CTO, the bottom line, it's for the kids and their future. Welcome back to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen.
Certainly appreciated Andrea Johnson's witness and her care. Obviously, a woman of great passion for those who are looking for a place and to locate themselves in the community, and so that life will flow again in a marvelous way in the Spirit. And I appreciated her representing Brandy Luther's permanent supportive housing initiatives as well. So what a powerful tandem that they have there, too.
You know, Bishop, I always find it interesting and challenging. Like, what do I do to help the homeless? I'm a little, I have to honestly say, freaked out when there's someone standing on the corner as a woman alone in a car. I don't want to approach them. I don't know what to do. And so if there's organizations like Anawim and so many others that we can volunteer with and be able to help the homeless in a way that is being successfully implemented.
Right, in a more systemic way than, just kind of alleviating that moment, which is not to be dismissed in that same way. I appreciate when St. Vincent de Paul people make available to me baskets that I can give out and bags that, probably many, many practical items, hygiene and toiletries, food, energy bars, fluids, things like that. And sometimes I'll hand those out, and no one's ever refused one from the car as well. Maybe they're looking for something else, but I think the receptivity to that. obviously with our Catholic Charities and the immigrants and refugee services. And so I think trying to help also find housing for folks, furniture, and all those other items that are so vital for doing that. So again, blessings on them, and people should be able to easily support that work as the Spirit moves them. Again, kind of thinking about yesterday's Feast of the Triumph of the Cross, some of the thoughts that sharing in terms of Fides et Ratio. I will be speaking at Benedictine College in Atchison, Kansas tomorrow, actually, as part of a day-long conference, and various speakers, and I'll be a keynote, not hopefully hitting it too academically, but a pastoral side as well for the students and faculty and members of the larger community. Folks who might be interested, there is an internet option, live streaming of that, so I think that would be one way, looking at the Benedictine College website to retrieve that too. I'm not sure what the financial arrangements are, or if this is.
I believe I said it was available for anyone.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, very good. Very good. Our sponsors, the Sarans, we're always grateful for them and their annual Saran Clergy Appreciation at Walnut Wood State Park on the outskirts of Des Moines next Monday. Thank you, Sarans, and a diverse menu, but I think it's just a chance to share, and again, grateful for the respective vocations that God calls us to, but their clergy appreciation, and obviously their fervent prayers for vocations to the religious life and priesthood, and we see that bearing great fruit in our midst also. So powerful things. We think about the Feast of the Triumph of the Cross, and Our Lady of Sorrows will be coming up next week. So it's kind of a Marian movement here, kind of rhythm to these days. But not everyone, I think, in light of the cross, of the wreath and the shoals, as the Fides et Ratio, that is a point of division for those who see it as a kind of folly, a wisdom that transcends this world. It was a recent Atlantic profile of Arnold Schwarzenegger recounted his interview with Howard Stern, and he asked him on the air
who would have ever thought we were referencing Howard Stern?
Where we go after he died. Yeah, well, I'm not the original shock jock, that's for sure. But so Arnold's response, the truth is we're 6 feet under and we're going to rot there. Some other authority gets to play the Terminator on a schedule they're choosing. So obviously he's coming to his own conclusions about ultimate things. But the cross, I think, is not just a two-dimensional thing. It's pointing to something as a portal to not only peace, but a way of being, and a way of being fully realized as who we are. And so that deeper truth, that the one who entered into that situation for us, for love's sake, calls us to experience what he wants to know in that embrace of the Father, and that Spirit, I think, which transforms all the lies and exposes them for what they are, the truth of who we are as sons and daughters of God.
That's another episode, Bishop.
I know. I could almost go there.
We love to have you all join us here on Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. We thank our guest, Andrea Johnson, all of our listeners in Iowa and Nebraska or Wisconsin, or wherever you may be listening, to Iowa Catholic Radio and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
You can hear Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen every week on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Making It Personal is provided by Sarah Vocations Ministry. Learn more at joinserra.org.